I want to touch on briefly is what I see, first of all, as the need. I want to frame this and then talk about the context, which is our own school, the benefits, I think, of what we're seeing so far and what we're doing. And then, if there's time, we'll take a look at the bigger picture around that as well. But I'll keep an eye on the clock as we go along. But essentially, all I can do for you today is tell you our story. It is a journey which is only partly completed. There's a long way still to go. And we have an awful lot to learn from other schools and what they're doing as well. So I'm delighted that Hazelwood Integrated College is represented here today. And, we need to be working together and networking. And that is happening increasingly in schools, partly because there is no overall strategy that we can tap into. So schools are seeking each other out in order to learn from each other instead, in order to fill the gap. Sorry for getting political there for a second, but that's the reality of what we're dealing with. So we've looked at these statistics this morning already. I like to put pictures to things. I'm quite a visual learner. This is one of the images that talks to me about what it is we're trying to do, because our young people are spending too much time playing on the cliff edge. And it's a really dangerous place to be. And in schools, increasingly, we find on a daily basis, we're trying to spot the ones who are about to go over the edge and grab them before they fall. My question is, how can we get them away from the cliff edge to safer pathways, put the sign firmly in the grass that warns them to stay away, and help them to go somewhere safer, more productive, and more fruitful for their future? This is another image I like to use. If the sandcastle, beautifully crafted, represents, in my case, Drumrah Integrated College, there it is. We've constructed the school very meticulously over the years. We're proud of what we have built. But look at what's coming up behind us. And although the journey that I'm on and that Drumrah's on is tinged by suicide, including Mandy's daughter Ellie 2 years ago, to me that is just the tip of the iceberg. And underneath that tip is teenage anxiety, their helplessness in the internet, the lack of resilience they display, the hopelessness that so often they carry. So what I'm looking at then is, yes, suicide, but anxiety, peer conflict, especially online, the levels of self-harm that we find we're dealing with now, children's helplessness, the really poor choices, sometimes self-medicating that we're seeing, but also their stuckness. This then is our context. This is our story. There's some of our young people who I'm so proud of, and they represent just a few of the 650 who rock in every day. These are some of the statistics for our school last year, 2017-18. Our pastoral and counselling review threw up these statistics. The number of students seen by our own counsellors was 46. Most common issues: anxiety and low mood, difficulties with peers and friendship issues, school pressures and exams, and family concerns. But the other concerns coming up included self-harm, suicidal thoughts that life isn't worth living, gender issues, bereavement, and eating concerns. A little over 10 additional students were seen by external or private counsellors, including Women's Aid, and I'm careful to qualify, that's that we know about. Students known to CAMS that we know of numbered 44. Why do we not necessarily know exactly how many? Because there is sometimes a breakdown in communication, and that, I think, is one of the systemic problems we're looking at. There were 19 child protection referrals to Gateway. I will interrupt myself to say I've already made 2 referrals myself this week. 25 families were supported by social workers through family intervention, 7 were on the Trust's child protection register, 11 children in the school are looked after children, and they have very definite needs generally. We had a number of consultations over the last few years. One of them was facilitated by Youth Action in September 2017, and one of the questions that they asked the kids to explain to them and explore with them was, what are the things that fry your heads? Which is quite a nice way to phrase the question. The kids immediately got what it was they were being asked. Recently, in our second consultation, just before Christmas, one of the exercises run with the kids, I don't have it to show you today, but the question was, what's on your plate? And they were each given a paper plate, and they drew and wrote graphically in coloured felt tips what was on their plates, and the paper plate became a very visual representation of some of the stuff going on in their heads. But with this one, what are the things that fry their heads? 3 slides to try and capture this. You'll see there it includes social media, it includes exams and homework, it includes rows and relationships, fear of becoming an adult and what the future looks like in this deeply fragmented world that we're asking our young people to grow up in. That concerns me hugely. And where did the role models go? Handling school, family issues, friends, trying to keep everybody happy. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Fitting into the mold, the hamster wheel, trying to live up to the expectations that I face. Being bullied, and this phrase, negative vibes. Politics, global and local. Presumably this was a sixth former, driving and the cost of insurance. You're paying more for insurance than you did for the car. Video games, when your mom makes awful food. Well, there you go, poor mum, she does her best. Reputation, stress, when things don't go your way, but also look at the next one, when you don't want to do what your friends want you to do. Peer pressure is the most vicious influence on a young person trying to grow up today. Being disorganized, there you go. Watching someone being bullied and not doing anything about it. One of my proudest moments ever as a principal is when a child or a couple of kids land in my office doorway and say, we need to talk to you, come in, sit down, what's the issue? And they say, it's not us, we're fine. But our friend isn't. And he's not talking to anybody. Somebody has to help him. So we're here telling you, even though we may have just blown our friendship with him, because he'll be angry when he finds out that we told you, but we care too much to stay silent. And that's the moment, really, when more than anything else I do, I just feel this is something to be proud of. If we are nurturing young people who have those values to step into the gap, then we must be doing something right. FOMO, you'll know, if you're into all this, is fear of missing out. Snapchat sexism, people judging without knowing me, people not listening to me, racism, not being able to be heard, my height, teachers' tests, YouTube, or my youngest siblings drive me nuts. So many different things going on in their heads. Now I'm going to show you just a couple of seconds of this because it triggered an idea for me. I had found this clip on YouTube, and then what I'm going to show you actually is that we decided to do our own version of this. So I'll just let you get the idea and then I'm going to move straight on from it. You get the idea. What's even more interesting is when the kids had gone in, they flipped the board around and did the same thing with the teachers. So I figured a year and a half ago, let's try this. We were in a post-suicide phase. We were pushing hard for recovery. We were trying to replace the language of suicides, which had got into the kids' heads and infected their thinking, with a whole new language, and that's why the word hope was so important. And Mari arrived on our doorstep and said, I'm coming to travel with you. Thank you, Mari. And she has traveled with us ever since. And so in terms of just introducing a new language, I ran the same exercise. I showed them that clip in assembly, and I said, guys, let's do this. I want you to write down your hope for this year. We're here in September. It's a new school year. What do you have to tell me? But I also said to the staff, would you do the same thing? So, even though time is against us, I'm going to run this in its entirety because I just find it fascinating. This is precisely 2 pop songs long. So if you want to gauge it, when the first song finishes, you know we are halfway through. First the kids, and then what some of our teachers said. So there's the school community talking to each other, and my goodness, if you compare the answers to what fries your heads with the dreams that are lingering inside the minds of every one of those pupils, you know, the difference is stark, the connection is there. How on earth then do we help them to take what fries their heads and turn it into the fulfillment of a dream or a hope? So we have centered on three concepts across the school. Hope, which is what we're focusing on primarily today. The growth mindset, based on Carol Dweck's work. We've turned that into staff training. There are now visual representations linked into the growth mindset across the school. And I really recommend her book on the growth mindset to you. And the concept of resilience. The kids in school are very familiar with this next slide because we've tried to define hope, have an agreed whole school definition of what it is. And it is about belief, dreams, having the courage to go after those things. It's about trust. It's about rising. It's about something better. And it's about the future. Desmond Tutu said hope is being able to see there is light despite all the darkness. Mari's already shown us Schuller's brilliant quotation, let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. Hold on, pain eases. And thanks to Mari, hope is to the mind what oxygen is to the body. The concept then that through hopeful minds, hope is teachable. I'm going to show you a brief extract of this. This is part of the documentary that was shown not long ago on the BBC. I want you to see the bit where Mandy is in the classroom working with the kids, so bear with me. I'm going to jump over the first bit of it. Here we go. This is a Hopeful Minds lesson.
Well, welcome back. It's nice to see you all again. Nice happy faces coming through the door.
One of the volunteers running the Hopeful Minds class is Mandy Chisholm.
You've got it with you, have you? There we go, Camille, thank you.
Mandy's daughter Ellie was one of the pupils at Drumra who took her own life last year. When it comes to the tragedy that has happened in your family then, how has the school supported you?
Unbelievably. There's a real sense of community and family within the school. I've been involved in everything as regards hope, and we have a great relationship. The support we've had from the school has just been unbelievable, and that's why I'm so happy that Drumra was the first school for me to deliver the Hope programme, because, you know, they've brought a lot of hope to me as well. What might that person be doing?
Well, it turned out that he was snapping me in his car, and it was quite late, maybe about 9, and then he had to take a quick shower and go to sleep, and he just didn't have time to snap back to me.
Exactly, and that is the way we need to think. That if we're thinking, you know, why is this, and you start panicking yourself, you start getting worried. And what we're trying to do is to stop that worry, send you into the upstairs of your brain and think, as you found out, well, you know, it was late, you then had to have a shower and then go to bed. So there was nothing wrong after all, but you're in control of your mind. Okay? I think it gives them a sense of self. You know, they are in control of this, and I think some of the control needs to be given back, you know, to the children, you know, just you know, for them to think, do you know what? I'm not going to be made feel like that. I'm going to try and change things. And I think then they feel empowered, and it naturally just lifts them up. It's definitely effective. I've seen over the weeks, this is week 10, they're remembering the tools. And the reason we have workbooks for them is, you know, if they're not having a great time, you know, or they feel a bit down, take a book and have a look. You know, and if they read over the work just a little bit, and, you know, it will lift the mind. Yay, well done, Mum. It makes me so happy that this is working, and I hope the evidence that is brought from this really shows. And as I say, I would love Ellie to be remembered by bringing hope into the national curriculum.
Second last child who left the classroom there, little Jack, has so little going for him at home that one of his classroom assistants now takes his PE kit off him at the end of every PE lesson And when he arrives for his next PE lesson a few days later, it's been washed and is ready for him to put back on. Okay, let's jump straight from what you've just seen of Mandy delivering the program in the classroom through to a clip of the graduation ceremony. So from mid-process to end of process, as Mari said, the kids designed their own graduation ceremony. And we have a parent called Heather who is brilliant with a needle and thread. She made us 19 beautiful graduation gowns, pint-sized. We got mortarboards, but she was so inspired by coming to watch that. All I'd say to her is, Heather, come and see your gowns in use. At the end of the session, she signed up and she is now one of our facilitators alongside Mandy. This then is the graduation ceremony.
Well, today is the graduation for the Hope students. They're so excited and they're very proud of themselves, which is one of the most important things. Excellent. Hope is for everybody, no matter what walk of background you come from, how you're feeling today, how you're going to be feeling in 10 years' time. You know, it's not just students that are struggling, it's not students that are confident. You know, it's a mix because hope is for everybody. No stigma attached.
What you're witnessing this afternoon, I hope, is just the beginning of something huge. Because we are actively interested now in the idea that hope can be taught. This world isn't getting any easier for young people. It's a tough old world. And it's very easy to pick up bruises along the way or to find that you've been hurt by something. And so it is our duty, I think, to explore the possibility that hope can be taught, that it is something we can help our young people to develop and to live every day. And then I'm hoping that we can not just have a pilot group taking the Hopeful Minds program, but I would like every member of Year 8 to take this program every single year. So I'm looking now to develop this as a rolling program so that by the end of Year 8, every child at Drumrah has experienced this. On the count of 3, let's do the throw. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go!
Drumrah have made good mental health something to be valued and nurtured across the school. It's some.
So far this year, our 4th out of 5 Year 8 class is taking the program now, 1 to go, and we have planned the graduation ceremony for late June. So we're on track. The idea that every child will have the program, we're going to make it work. It was initially a mixture of Mandy and Heather and then some classroom assistants. For September, I'm more interested now in our Year 8 form teachers becoming the facilitators so that they're connecting with their own classes and with young people they know so well. Now, these are some of the things that the pilot group said a year ago after they'd finished the program, and I won't read them to you, you're intelligent readers yourselves. I'm going to draw your attention to one at the end, but these are the sorts of things that the kids fed back to us afterwards. Hanging out with the right people. There's peer pressure again. Listen to the language the kids are using. I am learning to use the hope tools. A shared language is so important as part of this. One child, you saw her briefly in the video there, wrote over a side of A4 instead of the paragraph that the other kids were giving us. She is the child who stands in corridors at break and lunchtime reading a really thick book. She doesn't engage readily with other young people. She doesn't often use her own voice, but she did when she was asked to write about the impact of Hopeful Minds. And what she wrote took our breath away. She has now been helping to facilitate one of the Year 8 groups this year, rocking up at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning to help Mandy deliver the program to children a year younger than her. It takes 4 slides to capture what Kiva wrote, so here we go. I am going to read this one. When I started my hope journey just after Christmas, I was in a dark place. I was battling depression, suicidal thoughts, horrible social anxiety and loneliness. I was really struggling and I was considering going to a different school. I received a letter about this and didn't want to do it, but my family persuaded me to. I was really nervous because I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't have any friends in the class. I was terrified that we would have to work in groups. I was very quiet at first, but as the weeks went on, I started winning the fight with my demons. With the help of this group, I managed to get out of the darkness. I look forward to every week. I really think this group has made a positive difference to my life. I am very grateful for it. I now have a much more positive mindset, banished I wish and replaced it with at least. The program was really beneficial for me, and I think every student should be able to learn hope. The world is getting worse by the day, and I think we need more than a degree to get through it. How true. Hope should definitely be added to the curriculum and change children's mindsets, lives, and help them to cope when life gets tough. I really enjoyed my hope journey, and I hope others will too. Now, we then asked Mandy and Heather to reflect on their experience of delivering the program. This is part of what Heather wrote. They each gave me a much longer piece, but I've taken a couple of extracts in each case. So Heather's voice is, I think Hopeful Minds is hugely important. Changing the mindset of children now can change their future. For many, change their lives now. Changing their thinking and behaviour gives the children hope that they have a future. This subject needs to be on the curriculum. I wish it had been on my school curriculum when I was at school. My outlook on myself and my life would have been completely different. At 47 years old, Hopeful Minds has changed my way of thinking and boosted my confidence. Mandy, as you know, is the mum of Ellie, who took her life just under 2 years ago. And this is what she has to say. She's the lady you've just seen on the video. I was invited on a 2-day training course so I could become a facilitator. Well, after the 2 days, I didn't only walk away with a certificate, but a whole new approach to parenting, my mindset, and with renewed hope. Hopeful Minds helped me understand how our brains work, why it works that way, and how to take steps to change negative thoughts, and how to dissolve anger into rational thinking. The upstairs brain, for example. Then at the end of the 12 weeks, we asked the students to organise their own graduation and to celebrate their Hopeful Minds project and new ways of thinking. Some students may never experience the fun and joy of graduating, but every child that receives the Hopeful Minds project will. I'm excited and hopeful that this will become a part of our national curriculum and help thousands of children in our very confusing times. So what do we do with hope? Do we regard it as a cross-curricular skill like literacy and numeracy? Do we make it a new subject on the curriculum? My own view is that we should, but it also has to be a whole school thing, and it is about mindset, which is why I've connected Dweck's work on the growth mindset with the Hopeful Minds program. It's a very natural partnership, and there's a flying chance, and we're going to get a chance to show you a bit of why in a second. So some of the other stuff we're doing, because you cannot just run one program with one year group of children and say, that's it, we've cracked it, hope is done. So what we're looking to do instead is to look at what goes on outside the classroom, what goes on inside the classroom. If it's year 8 who are experiencing Hopeful Minds, what are we giving year 9? What are we offering year 10? And how do we keep repeating the message? Now, the consultation that we ran with our students before Christmas threw up some really interesting feedback, one of which that slapped me between the eyes was, they said, we really appreciate that you're so interested in our mental health, but would you stop doing talks on our mental health? So, okay, there's a challenge. We have to then find different ways of approaching this, but Hopeful Minds is a brilliant example of how you approach it differently. So that has become the foundation. We're interested in resilience as well, but I'm going to skip rapidly through this. Okay. The growth mindset. Okay, so this is Dweck's work. It's a journey to replace fixed mindset thinking with growth mindset. I find this interesting. Do you remember John McEnroe stropping on the tennis courts? Here's a clue as to why he threw those tantrums. He never liked playing tennis in the first place. This is what he says. This is out of Dweck's book, which I just think is brilliant. He says his father was judgmental, everything was black and white. He put on the pressure. McEnroe said, my parents pushed me. My dad was the one mainly. He seemed to live for my growing little junior career. I remember telling my dad that I wasn't enjoying it. McEnroe enjoyed the consequences of his success, being at the top, the adulation, the money. However, he said many athletes seem truly to love to play their sport. I don't think I ever felt that way about tennis. Now, compare that with Tiger Woods. Tiger says his father saw his son as a chosen person with a God-given destiny, but he fostered Tiger's love of golf and raised Tiger to focus on growth and learning. What a difference. Tiger's father said if Tiger had wanted to be a plumber, I wouldn't have minded as long as he was a hell of a plumber. The goal was for him to be a good person. Actually, he's a great person. Tiger said, my parents have been the biggest influence in my life. They taught me to give up myself, my time, my talent, and most of all, my love. There are some who say that Tiger went off the rails when his father died, but there's an insight into why that might have been. And Tiger is trying to find his way back with some success. So, what does that mean for us in school? This is a clue. Benjamin Bloom studied 112 world-class performers in a range of different disciplines, and they reflected that their first teachers, for most of them, were incredibly warm and accepting. They created an atmosphere of trust, not judgment. They said, it's not I'm going to teach you. No, it was I'm going to teach you, not I'm going to judge your talents. The best thing we can do in teaching our students is to teach them to love challenge, to be intrigued by mistakes. We have started talking this year, particularly explicitly, to our students about the F word, which, as you can imagine, gets their attention. I saw one or two of your heads go up there as well. But the F word is failure. And how do we deal with the F word? How do we cope with the F word? Because the F word hits us all sooner or later. So to be intrigued by mistakes, to enjoy effort. One of Dweck's key messages, I'm sure you're aware, is don't praise achievement, praise effort. If you praise achievement relentlessly, children are only anxious to perform, to repeat the success you praised them for. Whereas a growth mindset says, I don't care if you messed up, but I really appreciate the effort you put into that. So let's try a new pathway next time. Let's learn from this experience, and maybe it'll work out better next time. But your effort was outstanding. Well done. We also look at different facilities across the school. We have posters around the place saying it's okay not to be okay. Social media is a constant battle. My goodness, it drives me nuts. Counselling support we pay for additional ourselves out of our budget. We use the 6 bricks analogy. Have you come across this one before? Look at the brick in the middle. That's you. How many bricks keep you in place so you don't fall? 6. So then we say to our staff and our students, tell me 6 people who stop you falling. Tell me 6 things you do in your life that stop you from falling. We're also interested in some of the traditional systems in schools that simply will not do. And we have called this the concept of wraparound care. So often when something has happened in a child's life, there's a cloak of secrecy. You mustn't talk about that. Or GDPR doesn't permit. Well, actually, the news is the needs of the child are paramount. And if we have to talk about what one of our children is going through, GDPR goes out the window because there's something even more important. Now, it has to be done carefully, obviously. But we have redefined in school need to know. We've developed the red flag system. So if in a staff briefing on a Wednesday morning, I even just say, Bob Harkness, he doesn't go to our school by the way, Bob Harkness is red flagged. Even if I said nothing else, our staff would hear, right, Bob's vulnerable, something has happened in his life, I need to be really careful, monitor his behavior and his presentation in the classroom. If he hasn't done his homework, I'm going to give him an easy time. I'm not going to go too heavy on it. All of that comes just with the phrase red flag. And that is now well established in the school. And then one or two staff who are particularly involved with that child may drop in later and say, are you able to tell me more about that? And my answer is always, yes, I will. Take a seat. We also believe, though, that if students are coming into contact with vulnerable youngsters, the need to know says, well, if you're working with the child, you do need to know. So actually, sometimes we don't just stop at the red flag. We do go on and add some detail, even though we're absolutely at the wire with GDPR when we do that. We don't over-rely on parents. Why? Because we see some great parenting and some awful parenting. So they cannot become the center of a care plan or the solution to a child's needs, because it just might or might not work. We have developed a Safe Now policy, which insists that different agencies talk to us about what's going on in a child's life, but also a planning document. If, for example, a child has taken an overdose and is now to be reintegrated back into school, we follow the Safe Now planning document as we meet with parents and with external agencies. And it asks 3 simple questions. What are we concerned about? What's going well? What needs to happen next? Just 3 questions. I stole that from a health trust document. I can't remember the name of it, but I nicked it. With staff, we're looking at developing the growth mindset, reassuring them that they do have skills already, but adding to those skills through things like Safe Talk. Every teacher in the land has to be trained in child protection. They should also have a statutory requirement to be trained in suicide awareness and mental health first aid. And that's one of the disconnects in the system at the moment. The red flag system we've talked about, Hopeful Minds, and fundamentally everything that goes on in schools is about relationships. Without a good relationship, nothing else works. With students, it's about the right environment, about finding ways to involve them. The MAD group, by the way, is making a difference. A leadership program for students making poor choices, where instead of saying, God, you're a badly behaved kid, aren't you? You're saying, I see leadership potential in you. I don't think you see it in yourself yet. Would you like to join a program to help you go and find it? And relationships, again, with parents, clear communication. I am now asking parents more clearly than ever before to take their children's phones away on 2 occasions in any one day. 1, while they're doing their homework. 2, when they go to bed. I recently had to try and call some of our key holders in the middle of the night because the burglar alarm was going off, and 2 of our governors who failed to answer their phones at 4 o'clock in the morning said to me afterwards, Nigel, that's your fault. You told us to lead by example and make sure that our mobile phones were nowhere near when we went to bed. So as a family, we all leave them downstairs, which means we're not hearing the phone ring when you're trying to tell us the burglar alarm's going off. It's your fault. I said, okay. Digital resilience is hugely important. Boundaries done the right way. We see the right way, the wrong way, and for goodness sake, love them more than anything else. In terms of the curriculum, and I'm going to stop on this, we now have Hopeful Minds in Year 8. We have layered in Uber Heroes into Year 9, which is where children are engaging with the real issues and pressures they're facing through the medium of graphic comic books, which then become the basis of workshops. So for Year 9 are benefiting from that. The Florio project we have stolen from a school in Belfast and introduced it in Year 11. We are currently researching the possibilities and the potential of forgiveness education. We have a member of staff who went on some of the initial training in it, an introduction to it, and I've asked her to consider its potential within our school. That could perhaps be the Year 10 layer in all of this, but we're looking to gradually build it so that there's a complete mental health strategy within the school. It isn't complete, it's nowhere near. I still have staff saying, Nigel, I know this is your thing, right? I get it. I just want to get on and help them get a good exam grades. Do you mind? And I'm saying, no, I get that. That is a central part of your role, but you do understand that if a child isn't in the right place in terms of their mental health, they're not going to get the grades you want them to get. Actually, this thing connects. It's all pulled together when you look at the child and what they need for learning and for life. There's loads more, but time has gone, so I'm going to stop at that point. Thanks very much.